pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mitchell County Board of Supervisors, or at the Mitchell County Courthouse. It is Tuesday, November 19th, 2019. And we have an agenda in front of us. Any questions, issues? Anything new? If not,
Can we slip in talking about the resolution for the county social services? We've talked about it in the past and discussed it with Stan, but I don't think we have it actually on here to do something. Unless we have it as part of the county attorney discussion. Maybe we'll just do it there.
just have it with Mark. I think because Mark, you were the one that were kind of working with Bob on
Yeah,
that.
we should be able to do that. Just
Yeah,
slip it in.
fine.
Okay. Other than that then,
Also move to accept our
I
agenda.
guess I'll have to second that. So, all in favor?
Hi.
Aye. Approve the minutes of November 12th. Hopefully there isn't any additions or corrections to that. Everybody have a chance to read that?
Also move that we accept the minutes as is.
And I guess I second that. Roll call, Bard.
Aye.
Smolik, aye. That is approved. County Attorney, Mark, you're up next. Would you like to discuss with Mark right away on that
Yeah,
with Robert?
I have sent everyone a copy of the bill for cleaning up the Kephart property. I had the same concern that you did with Jason Palmer's bill, is what the heck was he doing on 11/11? It took 5 hours.
I talked to him.
Oh, okay.
Do you have some information to add?
When he was doing the billing, I guess Ray Avila wants a fence put up back on the back fence line, but there's currently a wire mesh fence up, so I don't know what he's talking about, but that, he just put that in as an estimate to put that fence back up, so I don't know if we pay estimates.
No,
I agree.
yeah, and we shouldn't be paying to put a fence back up.
I don't
Ray
think so
Avila-
either.
No, Ray Avila wants the fence up.
Because,
Yeah.
as far as stumps, there was a lot of stumps cleaned up on the fence line on the backside. There was a lot of brush cleaned out on the backside. We're getting gravel on the backside. I think the back property owners should be happy with what they've gotten so far.
Yeah.
I do have some questions about the bills as far as credits. Jason did come in. 6 dumpsters of metal. He has no receipts.
And where'd the
checks
money
went to
go for
Jason.
that?
Jason got the checks. He said he got $212 for 6 dumpsters of metal. He also gave away a lot of scrap to people. I didn't realize that was part of it.
I guess I assumed we'd get the money from it.
I assumed we get the money to offset the bills.
Yes.
So I have concerns about that because it sounds like a lot of stuff was given away to individuals.
Yeah, this bill ended up to be over $18,000.
$18,300.
$319.92. Yes.
Yes. So I did call Wild Horse in Kensett to find out bills because Jason seems to have misplaced them.
Okay,
To find out the
So
amount he did receive.
you'll hear something.
If they find it. There's also, there was multiple running gears, large running gears for vehicles, and those were pulled, some were scrapped. Jason still has 3 of them that need to be scrapped. That is not.
There isn't three, there's 3 of them they didn't scrap, right?
There's 6 of them they had, 3, and he said there's 3 left to scrap.
But I think the 3 that are left were still possibly usable.
So that credit has to go to the homeowner, or,
Well, I think they were left for rust, weren't they?
I don't know, he just said
Those are left for Russell. They're not going anywhere.
They're still in his possession.
They were viewed as to being too good to be junk.
Okay.
That's what my understanding was. So they are still Russell's.
Jason said there's 2 or 3 of them left and he will get them at a later date.
Also, they are gonna get taken out then, okay?
But I just feel if
We better double
an
check those.
individual is
They're
responsible
supposed to
for
be.
all the bills, he should get all the credit for all the materials that were sold. So I thought we need to get receipts from Whitehorse,
Definitely. If we don't have a receipt, I don't think we should pay.
right? And I think those 5 hours on the 11th should be removed, because in my opinion, I just feel like there's a lot of extras thrown on here that someone who isn't able to advocate for himself,
Okay.
and there was no contract, so it's kind of hard to hold Jason to what he could and could not do. As far as the billing, I did pull out the paperwork on the past project in Mona. I found it, totally different situation because that project went to tax sale, the county owned the property. So we had ability to do with what we wanted to. So I don't know, I don't have any record of billing the homeowner, but because of that, because we own the property. I am dealing with City of Carpenter right now, and the city clerk handled all correspondence in their county, or their city attorney did all the legal paperwork, and then notified the homeowner. They get 30 days to pay, kind of like the street assessment they're doing for the city of Osage right now. And then if they don't pay it, then it goes to special assessment over a 10-year period by code.
It can go to 10 years. The board doesn't have to.
The amount of the bill,
It says, if the amount assessed against the property under this section exceeds $500, which it does, a county may permit, it doesn't say shall permit. So the Board of Supervisors could say, we want it all up front. Or the Board of Supervisors could say, you can pay it over 10 years. So that's up to the board.
most entities that we have do it over 10 years.
Yeah.
Cities do a 9% interest. City of Carpenter is doing 6% on their special assessment.
But we may be able to take this in 3 years.
We do the assessment, okay? That will go on
2021.
2021, okay? He doesn't pay, let's just make the assumption he doesn't pay, then that will go for tax sale in 2021.
Third Monday of June.
Then you have to wait 19 months, somewhere in that time period.
Yeah.
It's January.
19 months with the certificate of notice to everyone, and then at 24 months is when you can take possession of the property.
Yeah, so it's,
And that tax sale is an online, and it's random, whoever shows interest in it online, puts it as an interest in it, that's just a lottery if who gets the property.
it's not like you can come in and say, okay, he hasn't paid it, we want the property. You can't do that, it has to go to tax sale, and that's online. Whoever bids the least
Least interest in it,
interest in it gets it.
out of all the individuals, and if nobody buys it at the tax sale, then the next, I have it posted, I think the next Tuesday we can sell it at that time.
Yeah.
And that person would, they would inherit the special assessments too, whoever gets that property.
In what month would that be? Of 2021?
It's in 2023.
23 is when it would go to.
For the 2
21 would
years
go to
later.
tax sale, then he's got 2 years to pay that off.
24 months.
And at that point, if it's not paid off, then no one else shows interest, that, like banks or anything that have, they get notified if they have loans on it, whatever. And then that person can take a quick, what is it, a quick claim deed? What is that called? Essentially,
Treasurer's deed.
yeah. So it'll be sold to someone randomly if he doesn't pay it in 2021, and then that person could take possession in 2023.
I know we have to really keep on top of this, that it does not happen again, that there is no buildup out there of a mess, that people are gonna have a fit.
The problem is, it's just not that easy.
I know. but,
And everybody thinks, oh, it's a mess, clean it up, until it's their property and you're saying your property's a mess, then they're saying, oh, no, the county's gotta go through, that's,
yeah,
you're
look what it-
violating.
look
the
at what
cons-
it's gonna end up
Yeah.
costing us.
Yeah, you're violating my constitutional rights, because, you know, everybody screams and hollers to clean a place up until
There's
it's their
bigger health
place.
problems in New Haven that I could talk to you about, that the individual across the street does, so.
Shannon, you're gonna then work with Jason, figure out some more information here? or-
I've caught Whitehorse because Jason doesn't have any receipts. And they're
Okay.
looking into it.
About your 5 hours.
He submitted bills to the county attorney.
I can tell you this much, unless the law's changed within the past year, they will not pay cash to anybody anymore.
Right, so
There's a-
they had
there's
to
a-
set up checks.
They'll give you a check, then you walk over to another county counter and cash the check, but there's still a check written to you.
Right, so they were gonna look it up and see, because I said, you know,
Yeah.
he's lost all of his paperwork, for how much he got for it. Right, and I'm pretty sure there's over 16,000 pounds of steel in there, I've been back there.
So that's what, 8 tons? What,
8.5, it's about 17,000 is $212, I figured it out, at $25 a ton, so. And it's 6 dumpsters, I think, is more than.
Is there gonna be a separation cost though? I mean, does it go there mixed in with everything else and then it has to be
Cops
separated?
charge for all that.
Will that be a top spot charged for like appliances and that to be separated? But I'm talking about, I know there was several truckloads of stuff that just anything and everything was thrown into it. Whether or not it went to the junkyard and they separated it at that point. And
Right, that's what we need to
Yes,
find
and,
out what the
Yeah,
net
how
revenue
much
is.
the cost for separation over there, that's gonna have to be deducted off of anything that Jason may have got, I guess.
Right, but we still have no idea of what he received.
And did we really need to remove trees?
There were some trees that had to be removed in the back in order to get equipment in there to.
You actually
clean the
needed to.
property. Yep. No more than necessary for.
Okay.
Well, I guess we'll just have to find out what Wild Horse says and go from there then, Shannon?
Lowell would be the one that has to bill it out as your clerk. Just like he does drainage assessments. He would just have to send in municipal the same verbiage, I would presume. Give them the time frame and whatever parameters you guys set up. My part of it would be to put the special assessment on and collect the funds.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll just work through this and see how this transpires, what we get for information out of this and go from there. Is there any more that we need to discuss on Kephart?
No, it sounds like you guys are on it, so.
Okay, Bart?
And where does the money end up actually coming out of? Is it out of rural basic?
Wherever you wanna take it out of, I will put it back in.
Okay.
The special assessment, once you get it, I set up each one individually and then we
Rural
put the chart of
basic,
accounts that it
Lowell?
goes into.
Rural basics
That was my
makes
first
sense?
thought, because it's in the rural,
They could fill it on.
Okay,
but the other would be general basic.
I don't know the revenue status of that.
Yeah, I guess we'd have to see what's,
And that's
where
on
we
us,
can pay it
yeah.
from.
Okay,
Okay.
well, you check on that then, Will.
all right. Getting back to, would you like to talk to Mark
Oh,
on Bob Lincoln?
on the resolution,
Correct.
Deb, have you read? has
No, I just
anybody-
gave it to you.
Okay.
this morning.
Uh,
And I didn't
And then
expect you to
does-
read it over now, I
And
thought.
then, oh, okay, so this is for,
Yeah,
we can do it.
we've
We
got
can do
until
it. We-
January 1st, so, in case your time.
Well, I think they wanted it as soon
Oh.
as possible.
So put it on,
Let's
why don't
get
you
it
guys
on
read
next
it over,
week.
make sure, I know you've got one change you want me to make.
A comma.
So you
Okay.
can read it over and see what you think, and
So
then,
we'll put it on, what do we have for next week's meeting?
Not much right now.
Well, let's add that on to
Let's
see
add
about getting
that on,
approved,
yeah.
and then, here, I'll make a copy for Stan too, and then I'll get you a copy.
Okay. And we've resolved that though, so,
Yeah, for now.
do we have anything else?
Did we need to talk any more about the hog confinement manure on the neighbor's crossing? I know I
The
contacted.
driveways, I
Yeah,
think the driveway is, that's really, should be open.
Well, I told Rich, I don't know if I sent you guys a copy of the email. The same theory goes by that we did with the traffic, which is either they sold an easement to the county, which means they still own the ditch, which means they can tell the person, you can't do it. Or the county owns the ditch, and the county can say, you know, you can't do it. But then the discussion Rich had with me is that something we really want to be doing? Because if, let's just say the person says, no, you can't do it, and now they've got to start hauling everything down the road, how much damage are they going to do to the road compared to how much damage are they going to do to the roads by pumping it? Which is zero if they pump it. Right.
You know, yeah, right.
Just
We
saying,
should-
it isn't that person's right to block a farmer
No.
out of his field.
Right, and common sense would tell us that if you're gonna do that, you talk to the landowner or the tenant that's using that driveway to take
I
care
would
of it.
think
Yes.
that they
This
would
is
have-
right now, this is a hypothetical situation that that kinda happened, but there was permission granted, but it's been an inconvenience for the landowner. But what this individual called me about said, hey, this is probably something that's gonna probably be a larger subject later on. Now, usually you don't have a culvert on a driveway that's on top of a hill, so that's usually where you're gonna run into the problem.
But if that's a problem for the person that's got the manure, maybe he ought to put a culvert in so he can
That's
run
the other
those.
situation to look at, and then who determines what, you know, is it the county's responsibility to require that that be done, or is it the landowner's? That's where it came into the whole question of the master matrix and manure program, or manure plans. The question was, can the county require that kind of thing, or is it part of the matrix? I don't know anything about the matrix.
well, I know from contacting the DNR and ISAC, there is no state regulation on this
Right.
particular
It's-
type thing.
It's a high driveway, it's a legal driveway, it doesn't need a culvert for us.
Right,
But if there's a situation for that person that owns the hog building that needs to pump manure over it or through it and not inconvenience the landowner, that's a situation where it is the hog confinement person's problem.
I agree. The question then becomes, who has the authority to make that happen?
That's not our, it's
I know it's touchy because it's in the right of way.
not
yet
really
not-
our problem.
It's
Well,
not-
it is, or it maybe isn't. There we have to go back to who owns the ditch. And like I said, 90% of the time you go and look in the recorder's office, the treasurer's office, the auditor's office, you can't find out who owns it.
The
Because if-
landowner owns to the middle of the road.
Not always.
It's not always, but most of the cases.
No, don't ever make that assumption. That's the problem. Because when those roads were made, the person, let's just say it was an 80-acre field, okay, and the county said, we need 2 acres for this road, okay? Did the county just say, we're taking an easement, which means you own to the middle of the road, and it's your ditch, we just have an easement for right-of-way purposes? Or did the county buy those 2 acres? Sometimes they bought the ground, sometimes they just bought an easement. The problem is that stuff was never recorded, it's been thrown away 100 years ago, so you can't tell who owns the right of way. You can't tell if it's just an easement, which means the landowner owns it, or whether it was sold to the county and the county owns it.
But if there's a situation where there's something wrong with that driveway, it becomes the county's driveway, we have to repair it.
The way
Let's
right,
put it
yeah,
this way,
right.
if there's brush in the ditch or there's thistles in the ditch, it's the county's ditch.
Yeah, it's a pretty, to me, it's a pretty,
Well,
it's a complicated.
I'm not saying it's the county's ditch. Let's say there's weeds in the ditch or there's brush in the ditch. We've got an easement. Let's just say we've got an easement. That's all we bought. Let's make that assumption. You still own to the middle of the road, but we've got an easement which says we can do anything we need to maintain that road by saying there's brush in there that we're gonna get rid of, there's weeds in there we're gonna spray. We've got an easement to go in there and spray on your property. So, now I'm gonna agree with you, I would be willing to bet that 95% of these properties, maybe 99%, are easements. You own the property. Which means you can tell the person you're not running that, hose down my ditch.
Is it probably also safe to say too that any right-of-way is not taxed, so whether they own it or not, they aren't paying tax
See,
on
they're
that
not
portion
paying taxes on it.
of that right-of-way.
It's exempted out.
It's
It's
exempted
exempt.
for roadway use.
It is still
It's still there.
public right of way. But in the eyes of the county, the culvert is, or the driveway's fine, we don't need a culvert there.
Right.
It's not up to us to put in a pipe for
No,
this
it's not
guy.
up to us, it's who has the authority to require it if it happens.
Well, I think that's up to the.
If the landowner is having
entities
trouble
to fight
getting
that
somebody
out.
to do it, does the county have the authority to step in and say, has to be done or not? And that's the
I don't
question
think
that I
we do.
have. Yep, right.
That's not up to us, but I'm not an attorney, Mark, you are.
Well, I'm gonna make the assumption that they have an easement.
Yep, let's just,
Okay.
yep.
They can say to the person, you're not running a hose down my ditch, and you're not running a hose over my driveway. I think they've got the authority to say that. But I also think that's a matter between two private people, the county doesn't have anything to do with it.
That's correct.
I agree.
It isn't our, it's not our.
It doesn't affect our traveled portion or the traveling public per se, in any safety issues.
The only thing that I would say is that the owner of the property, if he wanted to get out in his property and there's a hose going across, yeah, I think he could be upset if he wanted to.
Well, I think he's got the right to say, you're not running a hose down my ditch.
So that's where I'm saying that them two should come to an agreement, and whoever's hog building it is, needs to put a driveway in, or work a time out in which it isn't a problem for the landowner. But again, it's not, I don't believe the county's problem.
I would agree.
I totally agree with that.
So does that answer your question, Rich?
Well, it was more of a hypothetical and where the responsibility is at, and thinking, you know, down in the future, will this become more of a problem? And the only time it becomes a problem is if you're trying to run a hose over a driveway that's the high side where there's no culvert. Otherwise, typically, people will shove those pipes through culverts to keep them out of everybody's way. When somebody wants to cross our road, we now have a process where we require that they pay and put in a culvert under the road, not at the flow line of the ditch, above that, so it doesn't act as a water, a conveyance mechanism, but more of a, this is your utility to get across the road with your pumping pipe. So when somebody wants to cross the road, we require that they put in a 12-inch CMP pipe to run there, or whatever size they need to get that hose underneath the road. But it's all borne on that operator, landowner who wants to run that hose.
We can encourage,
It would be nice to
Pumping
encourage that
over
type
hauling,
because,
but-
yeah, right. But the question was just, you know, who has the authority for that? And it was just something to be brought up and have a discussion on.
okay,
You know, where do you see this heading, who has the authority, who doesn't have the authority? If you have, and I agree, I think it sometimes comes down to, you know, I don't want you to run your hose across my field because I'm still trying to work it. I don't know, I shouldn't make any assumptions.
okay, well, we've got that in the back of our heads,
Right.
and hopefully they settle it themselves.
Yeah.
Well, I also think the assumption is, I don't like you. I'm not gonna let you run it. Even if it doesn't interfere with a single thing I'm doing, it's my ditch, it's my driveway, I don't like you, you're not running it. That's what it comes down to. And I think they've got the authority to say that. But that's between them. The
Yes,
county doesn't care.
that's not a county problem.
No, I agree, but I thought because he had brought up master matrices, and can the county require that if you have a manure management plan and say you have a hose reel type system that you're gonna get rid of your manure, I don't know, the manure management plans tell you whether they're gonna use hose reel or tank or anything like that to?
I don't believe so.
So the question was, can you require a certain thing? If they do, can you require a specific route for that also? That was another caveat to it. I don't think I put that much
But
detail
they just
into it.
literally told me both places, there's no state regulations
No,
on
but can,
that.
I guess the question is, can the county put that kind of a requirement in? To say, okay, here's your approved route for running your hose.
Here's the answer in a nutshell.
Yep.
You cannot make it part of the application process. Because the manure management plan just says you're gonna have X amount of acres, tell us where those acres are, and tell us where you're gonna spread them.
Yep.
So you cannot make it a part of the matrix application. But you could make it a separate county ordinance that says, if you're going to, run a hose, you have to get a permit from the county. If you're gonna pump, you have to get a permit from the county.
With a route.
With the route, yeah. Now, the problem becomes, is somebody could have come in and challenged that and say, no, you're interfering with the master matrix, and the master matrix is, trumps everything, as the Supreme Court has said several times. Counties cannot enact an ordinance that interferes with the master matrix. Is somebody going to come in and say, your ordinance interferes with the master matrix, therefore it's preempted and you can't do it? I don't know the answer to that.
This morning, the legislators told us that we could do an ordinance, but it didn't have to be followed. Like,
There's no
then why are we
teeth in it.
wasting our time?
Yeah.
There's no teeth in it, that
Yeah.
you can't enforce it.
Yeah, I have some questions about whether it's enforceable or not. Now, having said that, there's almost has to be another county. Do you guys have like a county engineer's blog site where you can put questions on it? If you could maybe post out there, is any county enacted ordinance or regulations having to do with the pumping of hog manure?
Right.
See what type of an answer, because I have to think somebody's done this already, or tried.
That's
to
what
do
I was thinking, and I was gonna start even calling counties, but I'm like, where do I start?
I've got an outlet for the question and answer. I didn't send it out
Good.
yet, but I do think that other counties have encountered the crossing of the
I
road.
think there has to have
And,
been, yeah.
and I think even the state allows pumping across the road as long as they're using an existing culvert or other way to get underneath the road. And, but
Yeah.
there's detailed information about if it leaks, hey, this isn't the state's problem, this isn't the county's problem, you clean up the spill, and that sort of information.
That's why I contacted ISAC thinking, well, maybe they've heard of something, but they haven't.
Well, the practical answer is, Rich and I discussed, is the county wants to encourage pumping as much as possible.
Yes.
Because that pumping does not damage the roads. And hauling hog manure in those honey wagons or whatever they are down the road
It's hard.
is going to impact those roads, whether it takes 1,000 trips or 50 or 10,000. You mention it.
Yeah, I will.
Thank you, Mark.
Yep.
Moving on, 9 o'clock, we have a public hearing for the county services building remodel project. So, Gary, you're here, would you like to come up and take the hot seat?
Should ask Steve if there's been any oral written
Yep.
comments.
We are opening the public hearing on county services building. And are there any oral or written comments received prior to this hearing, Bart, from constituents?
No, I haven't.
I have had none. Lowell?
I had none.
Okay, and I don't see anybody in here that looks like they want to add any concern to it. Gary, I'm just gonna let you have the floor
Sure.
right here, right now.
Good morning, Gary Anderson, Scott and Anderson Architects. On Thursday, we had 5 general contractors submit bids for the public health remodel project. The low bid was $149,700. That was from Kingland Construction. Kingland Construction is out of Forest City. I sent the bid tabulation, Lowell. Did you distribute that? I sent this to you. Okay. Okay.
I know they helped on the schools, I believe,
Kingland?
yeah.
I can't.
I think they were
Okay,
one of them.
okay. But just, I do have a sheet here with all of the numbers of the 5 contractors I can leave with you too, but it varied from 149.7 up to 185.5.
Why don't you make sure Steve gets that, since
Yeah,
that's
you
kind of
bet,
his baby.
you bet, yeah. So, it's, you know, through the discussions that we've had about the remodel, my estimate with contingency was 150,000. So it's right in the area, but it's obviously, it's your decision. A quick summary of what was happening in that project, though, just so you know, we were adding offices, individual offices for the staff. We are making an improvement to the mechanical system. By that, the heating and cooling components that are there. We are giving some individual room controls to those offices. It's by far means it's not going to give the creature comfort that everybody wants. I mean, heating and cooling is subjective at all. So it is giving the flexibility of each office, though, the chance to control their temperature somewhat. But we're not going to be able to say person in office A wants it cold and person in office B is going to want it hot. The system is not set up, the existing system is not set up that way. But it is giving a lot more flexibility to the staff members. We're doing new carpet throughout the entire area, painting everything, new lighting because of the offices that we're putting in. So it is an extensive, in some sense, you know, it's a somewhat gut and then rebuild project. The staff, the good thing is the staff will be out of the space completely, so the contractors will have full reign of working in there too. The timeline on this is set up so that construction would begin January 1, 2020, it's the schedule, and be completed by April 15th, 2020. That's the target goal.
Starting in April?
January.
January.
Yeah, January 2020, yeah. So we're doing this early enough so that they can kind of get some things organized, the materials, because it's a short timeline. But that at least will give the staff time to organize, if you move forward with the project, to organize their items, to move them out, and to give the contractor the space, you know, open.
We're working on that. We've got, I think a plan is coming about as to where we can store materials from the building while the project is going.
We have 2 of the gals here from those offices. Do you guys have any questions while he's here?
No, we've been kind of talking to him.
They've
so
been
he's-
working
yeah,
together, so.
Good communication.
Okay.
Well,
Just a point of a question too, if you move forward with the project with an award, I would just like clarification as to whether or not that award would include the approval of form of contract. And the reason why I state that is some places will say we approve the form of contract so that I can get the contracts to the contractor for signature, get the performance and payment bond, and then the board chair can make a signature right away once that's back from the contractor. If you do not want to do that process, then we need to bring the contract back to the board for a review, for an approval, for signature. And it's up to you. It's entirely up to you.
Well, I'm just wondering if this is sort of a big deal, if we shouldn't have stand here.
well, this is something that we all three,
As far as I know, he has
He's
no
all for it.
concerns.
I don't know why we have to hold off any.
Okay.
Now, what we could do is once the contract is back from the contractor, give it to your county attorney for review, you know, too.
Yes, we would
Before you
definitely
make a
want-
signature. But
yes.
it's just a formal step that it's up to you. You can do it or you can pass it.
I would want Mark to approve it though.
Yes, but I think we can
Move forward as far
move
as
forward on this.
with the contingency that he
Mhm.
approves it. Yeah, I would so move for that.
You need to close the public hearing before you do any formal action.
Okay.
Okay, so we will close this public hearing. And
I have one question. Where are we at with architect fees?
I have a bill that's ready with the printing costs, getting through the redesign that we did and the bidding. I've got that prepared. I don't have it with me. I wanted to get through today. And then that gets us through the construction process and the bidding process. I will tell you, it's above my estimate because, you know, I did the redesign after we put it on hold. We had some things that we took out. The engineer had to do some changes. The last part is just honestly the construction oversight, which can be a little, you know, it's as needed, really.
What was the estimate?
I think I had for design 25,000 and for bidding 2,500, I believe. And I know design, I'm over 30,000, and I think the bidding was 3,500 I came up with. So it is more, yes. The construction side, I don't remember what I had for an estimate there, but most things.
140.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, no, for my fee,
I'm sorry.
for me, yeah, that I don't know. But hopefully it'll go smooth and there won't be a lot of need for my or the engineer's involvement.
Okay, did you get your question answered, Barb?
Yes.
Okay, so we have closed the hearing. Moving on. So this is, what we want to do is consider awarding the contract, and we would do that. Would you say Kingsland?
Yes, Kingland Construction was the low bidder. Correct.
Is that something?
What was the closest one?
The closest one was $200 more, and that was Wagner Construction.
Oh, only $200 different.
Mm-hmm.
Kingland's is from
Forest City.
Forest City.
Okay, I actually would like to ask around a little bit more about both of those since it was so close.
Mhm.
Because Wagner's out of Austin.
Correct.
And I am aware of their work being really good. And I think both of them worked on the school, so I could even call Barb and see what she thought.
So you,
So I'd like to hold off before saying Kingman.
okay. I guess that's what we shall do then.
Was there anybody else that was that?
No. Those two were the only two that were close.
Gary, I thought, my understanding when we talked that one day that was open, that we had to award it to the lowest bidder, is that the contractor or?
So the process for public bidding projects, as I understand it, is the lowest responsible bidder needs to be awarded the project.
Oh, is that the rule?
If you do not do that, you need to have justification to not award it to that low bidder. There is a process that I'm not familiar with it, but there's a process that you can do to go through that to more or less reject their bid. The question is, what is the grounds? I did go through a project where they voted on rejecting the bid, and that vote failed. There was discussion about the fact that either party could come back with some sort of lawsuit as to why that was rejected.
Well, I think that would be pretty easy since they both worked on an Osage project. I'm pretty sure that it'd be real easy for me to get an answer that, you know, unless she had something extreme wrong, I'm sure I'll have no problem with going with Kingland. But I feel more comfortable checking first.
So,
Since you guys haven't worked with them before, so you can't vouch for them firsthand.
I've been around Kingland more than I have Wagner. I can't say that I've even worked with Wagner, but I've been involved with projects where Kingland was on the project. Not necessarily my project per se, but.
I guess then we will have to shove this back until next week's meeting then, Lowell. So we'll definitely have to get it rolling because time is wasting here. I mean, this is something we want to jump right at.
I can even send a quick text, maybe by the end of our meeting we'll know something.
Well, it'd be nice to know now. But, I'm sure that Gary would like to roll on this. He's not sitting here for nothing. Can we kind of hold off for a few minutes on making this decision, Lowell? And go forward with a few other items and return back to this? Maybe Barb will have the information that she needs to resolve this. And Gary, let's shove a couple other items through and thank you. And Barb will get her information. You have more of these, or should I have Barb copy this and give this back to you? Or?
That's the only one that I brought today. I had sent it to,
Some copies.
what was it, as a file.
Thank you, Lowell. We will move on for the sheriff's report. Sheriff.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I have October fees for you this morning of $3,478.78.
Okay. And how are things at the sheriff's office?
Good.
As Stan always asks, how many are in?
We had one this morning, we sent 2 to Worth County yesterday, and they'll be coming back. So, just having one this morning.
Okay. Anybody's getting back to the sheriff's report?
We need to approve that.
Yes, we do.
I so approve of this for the $3,478.78.
And I shall second that. Roll call, Barb,
Aye.
Smolik, aye. So I guess we approved your report.
Greg, I thought that was interesting that the legislators weren't aware of Medicare, of us getting step paid for that.
Yeah, it's not unusual though, unless. you know,
But that's, you know, they sounded concerned, so they talked to enough people.
Yeah, here's an example, you know, a city policeman, and this is happening, and the bills are on my desk, brings someone in for in this case it was a domestic, and they're in the jail and all of a sudden they have chest pains, so they're taken to the ER
Sure.
to be checked out, and then 30 days later I get a bill for over $2,000. Well,
I know, it doesn't seem right.
it's not, I mean, county taxpayers are paying that, and maybe the cities need to pony up, and the state, when they bring people in, it shouldn't be on the county, but that's how it is by statute, so that's what we do, we pay the bills.
Lowell, we approved the sheriff's.
The only other thing I just wanted to bring you up to speed on, we're gonna have a few extra patrols out over the Thanksgiving holiday. It's usually a busy time for us, trying to slow some people down, be that Friday after Thanksgiving. Just a lot of traffic and a lot of drinking, and so we're just gonna try and,
On Black Friday.
yeah, try and curb some of that for us, I guess, so if you see a little bit of overtime for that day, that's what that's about. So,
I didn't sign the back page.
Figures. So you made a motion?
Yes.
Yes, we
I
did.
made the motion.
Yes.
Okay.
so unless you have any questions for me, or anybody here does, I'll be happy to answer them. That's all I have for you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
You're welcome. You guys have a good day.
Yes, you too. Hopefully this weekend will be quiet too.
Yeah.
Richard,
What you need?
we'll let you have the hot seat. As I was approached this morning, here's a concern from somebody.
I've talked to them already.
I I don't know, somebody hauling dropped that off?
Yeah,
Or did we do
someone,
that?
brought it into Stan.
Yep, and I've got the same kind of stuff in my office too. He stopped in last week, I think it was, and we had a conversation about a lot of this stuff. Okay, if you understand, we have a wet spring and we're putting rock in these frost boils to stabilize them, so it's a larger rock than our roadstone that we're putting in. You put it in the wet spot, traffic pumps it, pounds it, whatever. Sometimes then it pumps it up and we coat a road rock over the top of it to give it a nice drivable surface, and when the blades come in, they try to move stuff around. You either pull rock out and these things start rolling around. That's one way this rock gets on the road. The second one, we've got some bigger chunks in the office that he had brought in too. When the new quarry opened south of town, south of Wagner Quarry, I think that when they were loading some of our dump trucks, and we noticed this, at least when we were putting rock out, and they came and picked some of that rock up. But when they stockpiled the rock, they put a large rock base underneath the piles, and then I think what happened is the loader was sometimes getting underneath the road rock and it was pulling some of this rock out. We distribute it. Obviously, you spread it on the road and you don't always see it right away, and then the motor grader comes and it blades it out and it spreads it. Sometimes that bigger rock ends off on the side until we come back and do our cut and fan, and so it's moving this rock around. It's kind of a bigger problem, it seems like, this year than there has been any other year. I'm not saying that we never get this, but this year is a little bit more frequent than we've had in the past. And those are some of the ways that it happens. Is sometimes it ends up through the loader and the loading process. Sometimes it's stuff we've deposited and it ends up in a frost boil or something, it gets pumped back out, and all it takes is a little bit of that motor grader blade to catch a corner of it and roll it back out, and now it's on the surface, and once the roads start drying out, it doesn't get pounded back in. So we're aware of the situation. Like I said, this year seemed to be a little bit more.
Is his road terrible with this?
No, and actually, well, I don't know, I haven't been on this road yet. We didn't have a rock run on that road this year, so the chances of it being in a frost boil and then top coated are more prevalent. I don't know if it was exactly on his, I know the area where it's at, so, but I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. Okay. I know that we have other roads with a similar situation, and it just, you know, you try to put that bigger rock in, you try to pound it in to give it some stability, and sometimes you'll pull it back out. Not all of it, but a rock or two every once in a while keep pulling back out, and once that frost boil heals itself, it doesn't pound back in very easy, so then it gets tossed around from edge to edge until either it gets plowed off in the wintertime or it gets kicked off. So, but
You've talked to the person?
Yeah, he was in my office. We've talked about it already. So, but it happens all. You know, like I said, this year was more.
I'm sure.
Had more occurrences than most because of how the spring was. So, I don't have much to discuss. I know the guys are trying to get all the snow equipment finalized on the machines. We'll be working on a set of plans here to get out in December for some paving. I know that our bridge project up by Bailey is on schedule for, I know the check plans have been turned in, and preliminary plans have been turned in already, so we're getting some final issues taken care of there. And I also have a couple of phone calls to follow up on. One might be a drainage thing. I don't know where that's going to end up yet. So, just a drainage tile and a road culvert or a bigger box culvert. Don't know the whole situation yet, but I'm gonna call on that later today. So, but other than that, I don't have a whole lot to report today.
Do you have anything for Rich?
We did get about 700 tons of salt delivered here last week, so we've got something.
Okay.
Still got 1,000 tons to bring in back in, so we won't run out.
Okay.
Hopefully we don't need it, right?
Hopefully.
Go
Anyways,
back, going south.
check on that road for that fella.
Yep.
I mean, every road in the county's got stuff like
Yep.
that on it, that size,
But we've had some bigger stuff, and that comes from,
it pulls up out of the road.
well, this bigger stuff we don't put on the road, and it could have come from the quarry and got mixed in with the road rock. When you load it, you don't see
Yeah.
it, and sometimes you don't see it till after you blade it once or twice. And
Okay.
I don't know, do you want us to stop the motor graders and kick every rock off? I guess
No.
it's not very efficient
No.
for us.
I can't imagine.
It's
how you could.
I know it's a problem, and I know people. I blowing
I
tires.
run up
things.
and down in my area there and I stop and throw that stuff off the road all the time.
If I see big ones, I kick them off too.
I wouldn't that size, but if they're bigger,
Yeah,
that
and,
would
you
be
know,
nice if they did.
They're pretty angular, and I know sometimes if you're riding an
Can't
UTV
imagine.
or something, you can pop it off your tire, so, or break a belt. But they're secondary roads, they're not always perfect.
No.
But we don't like having that on the roads either, but it happens.
Alrighty, well, that was all
Yep.
I had to bring up towards, to you, so.
And we did talk about the pumping, so. that was
Yes.
the other thing, so. All right.
Alright, thank you,
Thank
Rich.
We'll talk about that in a little.
Okay, thank you, Rich. Bart, did you get a message back yet?
No, I don't think so. If you want, I can take a minute and go try calling.
Because we will start the 9:30 hearing here soon. Can you
You want me to quick try calling her?
give her a quick buzz, see if we can get this resolved, because,
I think, if there had been any major problems, we would have heard about them, to be
Correct.
honest. Cause I have talked with Barb since then, so, I would be fine with going ahead with that.
okay, so returning back to the public here, let's see,
Go back into
consideration of awarding contract for CS as building project, county services. So you have made a motion,
For Kingland,
I shall second that for Kingland.
and we'll have to make sure.
Roll call, Barb,
Aye.
Small guy. So, Gary, we're going with this.
I'll prepare
is
the contract.
Prepare the contract, and then we'll have the county attorney look at it, and we'll get it resolved, we'll get it signed and get it going.
Okay.
That's what we wanted to get accomplished today, so we've done it. And I think we did it just in time. So,
Lowell, I couldn't get hold of Barb, but I have been in contact with Barb about school stuff, and I think she would have mentioned if she had any major problem.
So-
So,
Better discussed this last week, and I think,
we've,
out of best interest, we
we've
need
passed
to.
it.
yeah,
We've
I already
passed
did.
it, we've had a vote,
I made
it's
the motion
passed.
for Kingland.
Well, in the future, please wait till I'm back here.
Sure.
Okay, I kinda suspected that was going to be a problem. But anyways,
What was
Gary is going,
What was the company's name?
Kingland,
What is it?
Kingland?
Kingsland.
So did you approve what Gary was saying in the form of contract?
We will
What
let
was your
Mark,
motion, please?
the motion is that we approve Kingsland and that we will have,
For the bid for $149,700. It's
Gary.
Kingland Construction of Forest City.
Gary will make the contract out, he will send it to Mark, Mark will approve it, and then I will sign it after Mark has approved it. County Attorney Walk has approved it. Everything good then?
Yep.
Gary, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on, it is just about 9:30, is it close enough, Lowell?
Yep, I think if people are here,
We'll
they
meet
are.
with the rural library board reps, and who would like to go first?
It always goes first.
No, I'm not treasurer anymore.
I don't care, it doesn't matter. Well, she's not here, what
I
are we
know.
gonna do?
Mark,
Anyway,
Your experience speaks for us.
well, I don't have a lot of figures, but, our library boards got together this fall, and, we did a discussion as far as,
How wonderful we are.
yes, how great we are. Dispersed our library funding, and we're hoping to ask the county for, I believe it was a 4% increase in funding. It's right there. So currently, we're getting $139,800. And we're asking for a 4% increase.
What do you guys use for the formula when you figure out how to divide it among you guys?
It says in the contract what the formula is. It's 55% is based on materials, what we spend on materials that is used by the public, anything that goes out the door for the patrons, so, or that the patrons use, you know, books, magazines, some of the databases with our downloadable things that they can use, anything that's used by patrons is, and what we spend on that is divided 55% of it. 25% is equally, and 20% is hours open. So it's a little complicated, but it seems to work for us, and it seems to be
Seems fair
equitable.
to you.
Mhm. And the technology, yes, and then we have an extra 5,000 of the original amount is divided equally, and we use that for technology, computers, and updates, things like that.
Which are constant, of course.
Of course, yes,
And the technology part is becoming a huge part
it is.
of, we talked about that, we just had our board meeting yesterday, and our database prices are going up, but our audiovisual are going down. It's, it's moving more towards that digital world.
Digital is pretty much the format on a lot of things. It's the way it's working.
But it's keeping people coming through the doors.
Yes, it is. We're very busy.
Does it list, I went through this last night, does it list actual circulation on your reports? Where's it at?
I'm not sure which question it is. But,
There's so many pages around this.
Circulation, that's on your front.
it would be in the annual report, but,
So
I
collection
gotta be
you-
somewhere in here that I'm missing.
You've got this annual report, right,
I
with all the
have
from
data?
each library,
I just
it would
got
come in,
yours.
circulation would have come in from each library separately. And I have that broken out in our particular
So it's somewhere around
narrative. Yeah.
there. I need to find it.
I'm not sure.
Collection.
Circulation, if we had reported circulations.
With the circulation numbers for the
Yeah,
report
but I mean, but on the report itself, it's
Yeah,
in
that's what I
it's in
was
F29, would be our total
F29,
circulation of both physical and downloadable items.
168, that's mine.
And then a real eye-popping figure is this E34. This is what we have, the volumes that we have access to, the physical volumes that reside in our libraries, plus the downloadable volumes that we would perhaps purchase, and the downloadable volumes that are supplied to us should we subscribe, and all of us do, to the Bridges Consortium, tens of thousands of ebooks
Yeah.
and
Those
audio.
are your digital downloads for ebooks and audiobooks.
Yeah.
Which
And
is
I already
becoming
know
ever
that,
more
I already know
popular.
that's huge.
You know, have device, will download.
What number did you say was circulation? F what?
29?
F29.
F29. So on each individual annual report,
It's different.
it would be different.
Okay, so I could look at last year's and then it would show the circulation on last
That
year's too.
F29 is right on your front page too.
Right,
Yeah, for some of us.
For someone.
yeah,
Yeah.
for those who do it that
It's-
way.
Yeah.
Yep.
I broke it out a little bit differently than that, but.
And you know, believe it or not, those two numbers don't, our immense number of volumes access that we have to the public and our circs, they still obviously do not tell the whole story. It doesn't tell the story of those who come in for programs, who come in to use the internet computers, who come in with their own personal devices to use the Wi-Fi. The people that just come in to hang out, I think we're a convenience store, that's okay. We're definitely a gathering place, which was much more traditional amongst public libraries a century ago.
And then, is this correct for St. Ansgar? 9 programs for the year for children? Is that correct?
We'll get to them.
days.
I guess we'll do as we've done in the past, is,
I don't know how they did it in the past.
Yeah, right, Barb's.
Take it under
When you go to
consideration.
your budget
when
meetings
we
in
do our
January.
budget, we'll work out what, do what we can.
Like she said, the programs are a huge part. Like, how many people did we have, how many children do we have for the Halloween at 300 and?
Oh, I know, yeah,
Yeah,
I know,
yeah.
I was just comparing with all of them, and I just wondered if that was a mistake for the total number of library programs for St. Ansgar was 9. Is that,
No, that would be correct.
okay.
So, okay, thank you for Wrightsville. Again, we'll work this, do our budget and work this out and see what we can mix up for you here. Who wants to go next? The Nissen?
Oh, you have them each do separately?
That's what we did, was kind of all separately in the past, didn't we, Lowell?
Yeah, we
I think
know,
everybody
we're just
together.
one group.
As a group.
We hang together.
I
Yeah,
thought-
this is all
That's why I
together.
was asking others, on others
I thought
already.
we did them separately last
no.
year.
We can all talk.
That's
I thought maybe, yeah, you were all gonna give a little.
No, this is all.
Oh, we could. Maybe we should start a new tradition next year.
Next year,
Yeah.
there we go. All righty,
We usually come as an
We will-
association.
again,
But you should let them all, if they have things they want to add, to speak, yeah.
Well, I just wanted to mention that we've shown, I'm Marcia Kuntz, the director from St. Ansgar. And the thing that we've really noticed, a big use of our meeting room. We have counselors from DHS and Lutheran Social Services and that are scheduling appointments for their clients in our meeting room. The second thing that we've added is a health component, and that we did a book talk on a heart transplant. And two of the topics that we'll be delving into in 2020 is going to be autism and schizophrenia. And that was quite popular with the adult sector. And that,
And that's increasing all the time, both of those areas.
yeah. And I had spoken to the state library, and I was promoting and having more programs, and what their suggestion was to possibly reduce the number of programs that I have, but to expand them maybe just a little bit more in different areas, and that. So we would offer refreshments for the kids and schedule speakers and that to come in. And we had the Mitchell County K-9 came in for our summer program, and also the drone, which was really popular, not only with the kids, but with the adults too. And that, so we tried some different things, and we're looking forward to telling our story in St. Ansgar and delving into family history and genealogy this upcoming summer. And we're hoping to have a multi-generational, and that with parents, grandparents, and the kids coming in. And I received a grant, and that so that each child would have a book to be able to put their family history in. So that's just a little bit of what we're doing.
Do you do story time?
We do story time.
Okay.
The area that we're competing with is another program on Monday night when we have it. Wednesday night we have to stay away from, and because that's church night.
Right.
And Monday night they have it's called Learning Connection, and they scheduled it the same night that we had our story time.
And so what we decided to do, we decided to have holiday story times. And then my assistant, she goes to the preschools in St. Ansgar, and she does a story time with the kids at the preschool.
I always think it's, I guess I always think it's good to have more story times, just because if you look at, compare all your statistics, others have a lot more people coming in, and checking out for that. But I see you're really high up for, internet use, people coming in and using the internet.
They
Looks
do
like you're
use
really
the
high.
internet a lot. Yeah.
Any other questions, Barb? Any other comments?
It is in my report. We started last January. It was just kind of a fun, different thing for our community. We jumped through the hoops, and we were selected to participate in a national 12-week fitness study for seasoned citizens. And in the little town of, Riceville, we had over 30 people commit. This is in the middle of the winter, starting last January. Commit to this 12-week, at least, attending at least twice a week to be a part of this study. It was large enough, they only really wanted 20 per class. Even already this year, we've had some pretty treacherous sidewalks.
How many stuck with it?
Right now, we've got only about 8 to 10
That's
that
still
are
good, though.
very, very committed.
Yeah,
Yes,
as long
it
as
is.
they're still, yeah, like you
Yes,
said.
we got biceps, we got triceps, we got better balance. Yeah, it's a really good program. Obviously, one that was needed, if there was that much interest. Oh, we could bore you all day.
Yeah, so I'm Barb from the Stacyville Public Library, and my problem at my library is I get so many kids, I don't know what to do with them sometimes. I have 132 kids in my summer program this last year. We had 30.
For how little you are, you guys are.
Yeah, that's a lot of
31
kids.
children in the teen group, which I'm very pleased with.
Oh,
And
that's
whoever
amazing.
thought I
Just
would
a
love working with that age group of kids. They're fun and outrageous. I kind of have been telling people, Sid did a really good job when she was at the Statesville Library, but I took her baby because she didn't want to give it up. And now I kind of made it into a teenager with raging hormones because we have a lot of programs and have expanded a lot. I mean, she did a great job, but I've made it crazy. So, yeah, true. I have to have my assistant hold me back sometimes because it's like, we could do this program. She's like, rein you back in. But one of the programs I love is going to the nursing home and serving that population where we take the books there. And it's just, it feels so good. And yesterday I was there, and one of the ladies that hadn't been doing very well, she sat up and she talked. And as soon as I walked in the room, she goes, Barbara, which made me sit up because, you know, use the whole name. But when I left, her family goes, she doesn't know anybody anymore.
She knows you.
She knew me, and she knew I was the, you know, the library lady.
The book lady.
Yeah, the book lady, and so that made me feel really good too, to have that conversation with her. So we're really, you know, starting out with birth, all the way to the
Seniors.
cycle of life. And one of the things we do also is we have the population, sometimes people with special needs, they have no other place to go, so they hang out at the library. And children that maybe don't have a whole lot of supervision are hanging out at the library because they need somebody stable in their life. So I think we're a life-changing places.
And this crazy lady, you mean they consider her stable?
Yes.
If we weren't crazy, I don't know, I don't think we'd be great librarians. Do you?
I do think that helped. Since I was one, I should say that.
Wait a minute.
You have to think outside the box.
For sure.
I
think this is why I thought each library did us their own special things, because you each all talked last year and you're doing it this year. That's why I thought you did your little talk separately.
And you know, so we're all from Mitchell County, and we all serve relatively small populations, right? I mean, compared to the big cities, and yet we're very different. The personalities within our communities are different, the needs are different, and therefore, the libraries, we cater to our patrons.
By reading through, you're each catching different niches, yeah.
Yeah. I'm Sid Heimer from the Osage Library, and we try to, hit all of the generations. We do a lot of outreach to the preschools, besides what we're doing when they're drawing them in for our summer program and our story times.
I like it that you also get them in there too.
Yeah, try and get them in as much as we can. We do an outreach to the seniors. That's one of my favorite things to do too, is to take the books to the 3 assisted livings in Osage, so, because they're very appreciative, especially, you know, in the wintertime when they can't get out and about, somebody is coming in and bringing them something to keep them busy, so they're very appreciative of that, so I really enjoy that a lot. We're just getting one new database. It's called Help Now, which is homework, after-school homework help. They'll be able to have online tutors and come in and use our Wi-Fi, and they can access that from home too. So any place with an internet connection.
And that hasn't actually started yet?
It hasn't started yet. It'll start, I think we'll start next month or January is when we'll get ours
It'll be
ready to go.
interesting how many make use out of it.
Yeah,
So I'm
it'll
sure
be real
some
interesting.
could use it.
Yeah, for sure. So that was, something extra that we wanted to do along with our other databases, EBSCOhost, we do that with the Chilton manuals and car repair and craft things. So we do a lot of EBSCOhost, which is our magazine database they can access from home. Unfortunately, Ancestry.com won't let them use it. They have to come into the library to use the Ancestry, but that's also a good thing. It's quite a bit
See, one of you
sporadic.
are concentrating on a Chilton section, didn't I read that? Which repair
I
manuals?
just put that, we added that this
Okay.
last year.
Okay.
As a database or the actual manual?
It's actually included, you have it too.
Okay.
You mean in the Gale pages?
Yeah.
Yeah.
the Chilton
Oh,
where you
okay,
can
so
go.
it's not
Yeah.
necessarily the book. It's
No, it's not the actual
Gotcha.
book.
Because I was
It's
thinking, those are
online.
so expensive. I
Right.
They
Yeah.
are.
Yeah, you don't need them, it is so cool.
Yeah, if you could do it
Yeah.
online,
You
why not?
just, click, 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 you can
There
print
it
whatever
is.
you need of the
Yeah.
manual.
Yeah, that's very cool.
That's
I'll
home.
find it faster, I would
We just
think.
added 4 new computers, replaced 4 new computers, so we're updating all the time, which is nice. Casey helped us with that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you also, each of your cities also make the financial
Contribution?
contributes to each
Oh,
of you
yes.
too.
Yeah.
Otherwise you wouldn't
And-
be able to
And I see
survive.
it's.
Oh,
listed.
heavens,
Oh,
no,
yeah, it's
right.
Listed.
Yeah. for
So
sure.
in our library, the county money and the city money basically pays our basic, anything extra, replacing, printers,
You
I
have
see you
to
guys-
anything,
scramble
I
over.
have to get grants.
I see you all went after and got some shop on state money.
Yeah.
Does anybody go after the FEMC?
Oh, sure.
Oh, yes.
Every year.
Yeah,
Okay.
And
Because
I'm
I was gonna
fortunate
say, if you
enough,
don't- If you're not, I
yeah,
would.
right.
yeah, and I did WCDA this year too, because
What's that?
the
Worth
Worth
County.
County Development, the
Oh.
casino,
Okay.
and because we
Why
replaced
not?
our
Yeah.
computers, and while, I appreciate the $12.50 that is earmarked from the county, it
Did you
costs
get
us-
from
Doesn't go
there?
very far.
Yes,
How
it
much?
costs us about 6,000, 3,500, I think.
Oh, excuse
That's
me.
a good one for everybody.
Means I'm supposed to open the
It is a good
library,
one.
guys.
I think they're doing more out of Worth County.
Yeah, I've heard of some other
Yeah.
things too, and I'm like, oh,
That's
we
cool.
should be recommending that to a lot of.
And I kind of save that for like when I need a few more $1,000s, a bigger one. Like, okay, I'm gonna go there.
Sure.
I've done it twice. So,
Didn't Kenny
good to know.
Lindstrom used to be a big contributor to the library?
He did, yeah.
They did for a long time, but they've mostly concentrated on buildings now, actual brick and mortar instead of programming and things.
I'm thinking years ago, the Grafton Library kind of got,
When the Stacyville Library was built too, we got it from
Mm-hmm.
Kenny Lindstrom.
We have a plaque, so we must have gotten something back in 1979 too.
Yeah, but they've gotten away from the programming side of it and more into the brick and mortar,
Yeah,
which is very helpful too, if that's
Sure.
what you're, with a project you're working on.
And then your federal dollars at work, we applied for and were given almost $5,000 from, through the FCC, E-rate monies for what's called a Category 2, we use bore you to death with all of our, a Category 2 grant, and what that allowed us to do was completely rewire and get in all new equipment to provide our internet and Wi-Fi service. Yeah, so we are state of the art. There is one drawback, it's so high-tech, I can't do it, I can't. I have to call my IT guy now to get some things done.
Casey?
Yeah, no, we have a different fellow from, hey Casey, good side job for you, he's from Charles City. They have a real hard time, libraries have a real hard time finding someone who will actually go in and do the rewiring. They don't mind supplying the equipment, and they don't mind giving you continued service, but they really don't like to do the installation. And so this young man was hard to find.
Well, I would think that would be quite a job to install that stuff.
And he actually went up into the attic of that little crappy attic rather than do the surface mount conduit. Looks good. And he's very good. And we are locked down. He used to do the IT for the bank. So it was super secure. I don't know that we have to be that secure, but boy, we are.
Well, thank you for coming and giving us a description of what's going on at the libraries.
Just a little infographic for you guys to be ever mindful. John Dinger, Ambassador John Dinger from Riceville, still resides in Washington DC, and he comes home, probably spends at least a couple months, kitty corner across the street, comes over, uses our Wi-Fi. And so he's got his finger on the pulse of what's going on out there, and he loves to send me stuff. He loves our library. He loves libraries, period.
My local library lets you take up to 45 books out.
Yes.
I don't know, do you guys even have limits?
Only for people that have.
That need a limit.
Have an issue.
Because even when my kids were little, I went out with stacks like that.
And we do, Barb, in our
I'd be
policy.
dropping them all over.
It's in our policy that we have a limit, but then procedurally, it's up to, for people that bring their books back.
You don't care.
We have no limit.
Exactly.
We do when people start. We do like a probation period.
Yeah,
Like,
I
let's
know,
make sure you
Sage
get
does that
the set
too.
back, and then after a couple months,
Which is.
or less.
Which is
sometimes.
smart.
It's really hard to limit those little 4-year-olds and tell them they can only take out 3 or 4 books when they've got a big stack sitting there in front of you.
Yep.
Oh, my daughter used to have a huge, I'm like, oh man, I gotta start bringing a bag.
It's like, no, you can have those. You don't want to limit them, they're reading.
Yeah, if they have that enthusiasm.
You don't want to discourage that, for heaven's sakes.
Yeah.
We wouldn't do that.
Yeah, and actually in the summertime, when I have families that have some issues, I have donated books that I get, and I just let kids take out of the box. Because that way, they still have reading material.
Sure.
Well, again, thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks.
We will work something out for you.
Isn't that fun?
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
And we had a board member.
It's just so neat, I just sit back, just like we do all year round, we
Well-
just sit back and let them do all the work.
Thank you for coming.
Moving on, meetings attended. Barb, do you have any?
Yes. County Social Services HR Committee meeting. Butler County does not want to take County Social Services payroll like we originally thought they were going to. We thought it was going to be such a smooth transition to this one employer. And so we discussed possible options. One idea was possibly combining a human resource person with accounting. I don't know, we're gonna have to figure all this out, but something soon by January 1st. IPERS has told us it should not be a problem transferring all that over, but we want them to actually send something in writing. Our employees Megan Teets and Ashley Rosendahl, they actually call it that we have to terminate them December 31st, so that they can be rehired January 1st by County Social Services. And concerning the counties that are still possibly wanting out of these, this 22 county region, if they don't get their staff terminated and employed by the one employer by January 1st, we won't be paying their payroll, so they need to keep that in mind. Concerning IT stuff, some won't be completely ready January 1st until mid-year. And let's see, Lowell, it says NGT, which is Next Generation Technology, will actually come to you and to every location before next July and check out what all needs to be done. And their server will actually be in the cloud, so nothing is lost if our internet should go down. Let's see, I did go to the ribbon cutting ceremonies at the school and met the Lieutenant Governor for a tour of Murphy Law Offices. Both places were beautifully done. Local Kristen Lewis, Mike and Kim's daughter, actually helped design Murphy's office. Did a very nice job. And then this morning we met with Waylon Brown and Jane Bloomingdale, and we discussed concerns for county mental health services, matrix changes, the Iowa Workforce Development Region changes, and some updates on problems with home health with VA. And let's see, I'm just going to add this here. I talked to Casey about difficulties with getting the courthouse's regular website. Even whenever I go to it, it goes to everywhere else. It'll go to the treasurer, it'll go to, and I just want our regular website, but Casey said that it is already being worked on, so I was kind of tickled about that. And Steve, if you want a little more information later about our meeting with legislators, I have some more notes on that if you want.
With who?
With Jane and Waylon before you came, so. And I think that's it.
Okay, I had a meeting with the Floyd Mitchell Chickasaw County landfill. We discussed the financial statements for October and approved. New hires. Ed Schindler started and Kristen Fox will start. Must have started yesterday. So that's the new hires. They discussed to close the Valero account. They were having issues getting their money fast, or this is quicker to bill the Gendro rather than bill Valero. It was easier to get the money from Gendro. So they're going to stay open late on Thanksgiving for a hauler. So they brought that up at the meeting. On the CAT service agreement, they discussed what they were getting with their dozer, and that was approved. They are reviewing the new application for employment, and this is done through Heartland Insurance Risk Pool, so that's going to be a change. And they're going to have a review of the employee handbook. That's going to be done by Shuttleworth and Ingersoll, attorneys for Heartland Insurance Risk Pool. And the old handbook was outdated, and they made a decision that that would be the appropriate route to go. I then had a meeting with the Upper Wapsipinicon Watershed Authority, and they had a discussion from state geologist Keith Schilling, and he talked about a survey. The Iowa Geological Society has been around for 120 years and half the public land is in roadside ditches, which I never give that a thought. But half the public land is in roadside ditches, and they are hot spots for pollution. And he did a measurement on these waterways or ditches on how much they drain, and they drain usually around 30%. No matter what your land shape, it's usually 30% of the land these ditches drain. And he did a survey on the vegetation, and he also found out that 900 pounds of soil washes in every 5 foot of the ditch. Now, he ever did discuss how long it took to do that. But anyways, we had a discussion on the watershed planning update, and they had a discussion on the IWA project implementation update, and that's the Northeast Iowa RC&D. And what they've got is their bid packets. They have 4 ponds that they are going to do in the future, and they have $1.6 million to be asked for, and unfortunately, that has to be asked for by December 1st. No one's took it. So it's probably going to end up getting sent back to whoever. And then they had a discussion on the Community Flood Resilience Action Plan for the city of Kewaskum. And then it was decided our next meeting will be a Tuesday in February, which they never did decide on that. Anyways, moving on, board appointments. We have to redo something, don't we?
Need to rescind your motion with Crystal Birch last week for the Board of Adjustment.
Yes, that was my mistake.
Yeah, you can be corrected.
Yeah.
So, Barb?
I had said Crystal Birch was for the Board of Adjustment, which is on planning and zoning, and I had it mixed up in my head because it's actually Jeannie Daly is appointed for that. The same week, I also got Crystal for North Iowa Regional Housing Authority. That's why.
Okay, so we have to make a motion to rescind that.
Yes.
I think you can just do it all as one motion.
Okay, so I recommend Jeannie Daly for the Board of Adjustment and for Crystal Birch for the North Iowa Housing Authority. And I don't know if we really need to do that.
I thought we had appointed her a few weeks ago.
She's already been appointed.
Oh, yeah, we did
So
talk about that, yes, you're right.
I'll
Okay.
check back, but I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure
it
you
was-
did.
yeah,
but
a couple
You
of
did.
weeks ago.
Anyways,
So
you must
So
approve
Jeannie Daly.
Jeannie Daly and rescind Crystal Birch's name from that position.
And Jeannie spells her name a little bit different. It's Jeanne, and then Dahley.
okay, there's an H in there.
Yes.
So Barb, you've made a
No
motion
Ys.
then,
Or well, not to them. Yes.
and I will second that. Roll call,
Aye.
Barb, Smalley, aye. Now, we never did have Brian Huffman approved for,
No, because you didn't
You
know
did
for
that last
sure.
week.
But I
we did
thought,
approve Brian then?
Yeah.
Okay,
you did.
now,
oh, I thought it was.
It was all part of one motion.
okay, now here's update. I talked with Cole Smith. He's thinking about
Okay,
the clerk part.
because the other one looked at it, she came and got the books.
Correct. She
Terry
called
Newton
me up and
did,
she
yeah.
said that she would reconsider that, and she didn't want to accept
No,
that
she had
position.
spoke with the former clerk too, so.
But anyways, I visited with Cole. He's talking with his wife, so maybe one of them two. I have not gotten any other indication from the other trustees, anybody that they would indicate, so.
Cole,
It's Cole Smith.
but that's not for sure.
That's not for sure. He's talking it over with his wife, and we will go from there on that, Lowell, so I'm still trying, but I have researched that Liberty Township plat book, and I've looked up names, and I've crossed different people out. It's just, I'm not having good luck. The one person I was thinking about asking fell and broke their hip the other day, so that shot that one in the foot. So, but I'm not giving up yet,
Okay.
so.
Thank you.
Anyways,
Your efforts.
Yeah.
we're down to public comments. Do we have any public comments? If not, we're gonna move to canvass the second tier ballots from the city school election.
Take just a restroom break.
Yeah.
So much of this feels.
Got it? Put it that way.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what some people want to see happen. They hear way a field being over.
Well, we talked about incentives for doing the things like to get down on
It was
the biofilters, the electrostatic fences, and other.
But I was selected as that with housing incentives. I was selected.
I know, but
And Wayland
they
Brown,
have more than to deal with. There's some of your families that are really suffering as it is.
So,
Don't have
That
nothing,
might be
Yeah.
asking.
so I gotta sign it?
yeah.
but Wayland Brown, I talked to him how that,
There's a,
That's Mark Twain, so that's my.
south of town.
there's a.
And he has, according to Whit, who works for Smithfield, I said, what the, maybe it wasn't Whit, somebody told me, I said, what's the electrostatic fences cost? And they said about $8,000. Now, somebody else said it's 10% of the building. Well, that's, maybe I was talking.
I don't know what
I think I
they
was talking to Jim Swanson. Somebody told me they're only $8,000 or not 10% of the building, so that's really good.
I guess I'd never heard that actual cost.
Yeah.
But you know, they can even put up shrubs even helps.
What?
Shrubs even help, you know. They have a lot of greenery up.
Well, what I was like, is they put up the fences, and then they put up the trees around it too.
Yes, which is great.
And there's actually a organization that will help farmers provide trees for farmers. So when people say they won't do that, I know one thing you have to
Do you
do.
know what it is?
Yeah,
Who the organization is?
yeah, I can find out. It's something.
I'm just curious just because I could pass it on.
But another thing you gotta realize is the old buildings have a problem because they have site ventilation. Put trees by it, it's great, but these new buildings all have tunnels.
Yeah, it's all different now. It's very
But
different.
you can use the support station around it, because you have tunnels that pulls the air straight through.
I gotta get going.
Yeah.
Okay, the purpose for the second tier of ballot is, that the combination city school having all the precincts, when we've got people that vote that are outside of the county, but they say they're part of the school district or part of the city of Wrightsville. So then, we've never had this before, this way that there are ballots that they give to them, and then they have to send those on to us, so it makes the second, period, the second week, we have to, add the totals to those elections. So they would get, their canvas of votes, and then we in turn also have to give some, like Central Springs, so we can Wood County, we have Floyd County for Red Rock and Marlow. One for Howard County for the rest of the school system.
Odds and ends.
Yeah, so it's finishing up.
Then you can give them done after this.
I already closed it off.
So that, I mean, I kind of expressed it, I mean, we kind of made a mess of all this election running laws.
Now, some of these, Stan has done and some he has not.
There was a couple spelling errors, and then we forgot to add in Floyd County and those ones.
calories.
Yeah.
Might have a dental appointment.
On a regular gravel road, the road grader will pull up rocks. So it isn't like they're terrible on the road. The way he explained in the road was that there were a lot.
Yeah, no, that's kind of dangerous if they're that big.
But you see, when the blade is cutting down the road, it.
Oh, I can see how it
pull up.
happens. Oh,
But you got them guys, you know, when they fan it back out, they don't see that big rock laying
Right.
behind them. Or did I have to sign then, or don't have to sign?
Well, that was when I stopped doing that day.
Yeah.
See, we didn't have them happen until later. No, not going for it. Need a motion and a second. Vote on approve the second
To approve the second tier.
I'll second that. Roll call, Barb,
Aye.
Smolik, aye, so we have approved the second tier. And without any further ado, I think this is the tail end of the meeting, so